Okay, let's unpack this. English is, well, it's a living, breathing language, isn't it? Full of surprises, quirks, and sometimes, yeah, outright traps.
Mm.
There are phrases that sound completely wrong but are actually perfectly correct.
Right.
And then there are those seemingly innocent questions that can land you in serious hot water.
Absolutely.
So today, our deep dive isn't just about grammar. It's about navigating the fascinating, sometimes bewildering landscape of English usage.
Right.
Our mission is really to guide you, our listener, through a stack of sources, revealing these hidden nuances and surprising truths. It's all designed to give you a shortcut to sounding more natural, avoiding social blunders, and truly understanding the language's, well, often unwritten rules.
And what's truly fascinating here is how often our intuition about what feels right or wrong in English, well, it isn't purely grammatical.
No.
No. It's deeply intertwined with social context, cultural norms, even the emotional impact our words carry. Understanding these linguistic subtleties is paramount, not just for correctness, but for truly effective and, I'd say, empathetic communication. It's about more than just words. It's about connection, isn't it?
Absolutely. Connection. That's a great way to put it. So let's jump straight into part one then. The puzzling phrases.
Okay.
These are the linguistic curiosities, the ones that might make you pause, wondering if you misheard, because they initially seem a bit odd or even like grammatically incorrect. But surprisingly, they're perfectly acceptable, even kind of elegant in written and spoken English. In fact, when you use them correctly, they can actually help you sound more expressive and sophisticated.
And that's the key, really. These phrases aren't just accidents. They exist because they serve a specific purpose.
Right.
They're often about creating emphasis or maybe building suspense or conveying a viewpoint with a particular shade of respect or formality.
Yeah.
Something a more straightforward sentence might just miss.
Yeah.
They add texture.
Texture, I like that. So what are some of these intriguing gems? First up, one you've probably heard, maybe in a game setting. Never have I ever.
Ah, yes.
When I first heard this, I thought, shouldn't it be I have never? But it's used to powerfully express a complete lack of past experience, like never have I ever tasted sushi or never have I ever done skydiving. It's very direct, concise, really hammers home that lack of prior experience.
A wonderful example of subject-verb inversion for emphasis. By putting never right at the beginning.
Yeah.
It immediately signals the negative and draws attention to the experience that hasn't happened. It's concise, delivers a strong impact up front. A bit like how you might deliver dramatic news. That makes sense. Okay, then we have more than meets the eye. This one can definitely feel a bit off to some learners.
Oh, for sure.
But it's grammatically sound and incredibly descriptive.
Right.
It just means there's a hidden layer, something deeper or more complex than what's immediately visible.
Think about the offer looks simple, but there's more than it meets the eye. Or about a person, he looks friendly and nice, but I think he's more than it meets the eye. It sort of challenges you to look beneath the surface.
Exactly. And this phrase is brilliant because it taps into our natural curiosity, maybe even our skepticism.
Right.
It's like a linguistic shortcut to suggest hidden complexities or even a subtle warning. It immediately primes the listener to expect something unexpected, adding a bit of intrigue.
Intrigue, yeah. Okay, for all you storytellers out there, little did he know, or little did she know, this is a fantastic tool.
Oh, a classic.
Right. This structure instantly creates a sense of dramatic irony or suspense. It reveals a crucial gap in a character's awareness, kind of hinting at what's to come. Little did he know that he lost his phone at the cafe. You immediately know he's about to have a rude awakening.
Yeah.
Or little did they know the financial decision would mess with the company's growth. It sets the stage.
It's a classic literary device, exactly. By revealing the character's ignorance to the audience, it builds anticipation and makes the narrative far more engaging. It puts you, the listener, in this privileged position, knowing more than the character. Very compelling.
Definitely. Moving on, I'll wait on it. Now, wait for is certainly more common.
Much more common.
But wait on it conveys the same basic meaning of delaying an action or a decision. It suggests a patient, maybe even strategic hold, like the new phone model looks great, but I'll wait on it until the price drops. Or they offered me the job, but I'll wait on it until I hear back from the other company I interviewed with. It's perfectly idiomatic.
And I think this phrase carries a slightly nuanced implication of active consideration rather than just passive waiting.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, it suggests a deliberate deferral, maybe indicating a thought process behind the delay. It can convey a sense of prudence or careful decision-making, perhaps.
I see. Okay, next. Were I to guess, I'd say this is a sophisticated construction, isn't it? It might make you do a double take.
It can sound very formal.
It is, but it's a really thoughtful and polite way to offer a guess or speculation without claiming absolute certainty. It adds a layer of humility and consideration. For instance, were I to guess, I'd say she's not coming back before evening. Or were I to guess, I'd say the test results will be positive. It softens it.
It's a beautiful example of the subjunctive mood in English, which we use for hypothetical or uncertain situations. Using were I to guess is more formal, definitely less direct than just saying, if I guess, making your speculation sound more considered and, well, less presumptuous. It's a feature of polite discourse.
Polite discourse, right. Okay, how about so absorbed was he in his work? This is a wonderfully dramatic way to convey deep focus, intense engrossment.
Yes, very expressive.
That inverted sentence structure really emphasizes just how completely consumed someone was. So absorbed was he in his work that he didn't notice the 50 missed calls.
Wow, 50 missed calls.
I know. Or so absorbed were they playing video games that they forgot to eat lunch. It just paints a vivid picture of that concentration.
Indeed. Fronting so absorbed, putting it at the start, creates an immediate spotlight on the state of absorption. It pulls the listener right into the scene and magnifies the degree of focus.
Yeah.
It's a very expressive choice for emphasizing an overwhelming state.
Definitely. Then there's far be it from me to criticize.
The diplomatic.
Exactly. This phrase is a masterclass in offering constructive criticism or advice without sounding overly critical or interfering. You're essentially saying, look, I'm not trying to be judgmental, but I feel compelled to share this. Far be it from me to criticize, but I think you should research more before starting a business. It softens the blow of the advice, right?
It's an excellent diplomatic tool. It preempts potential defensiveness by expressing this reluctance to criticize.
Right. Reluctance.
Which then allows the advice or critique to be received, hopefully, more openly. It's about building a bridge, not a wall, with your words.
Building a bridge, yeah. And finally, for this section, scarcely had I closed my eyes. This is an impactful way to describe an immediate sequence of events, something happening almost instantaneously after you tried to rest.
Like bang.
Yeah. Scarcely had I closed my eyes when the phone rang, or scarcely had I closed my eyes when the baby started crying. It highlights the suddenness and often the unexpected nature of whatever happens next.
It creates a real sense of immediacy and often a touch of dramatic irony, especially if the subsequent event is disruptive.
True.
The adverb scarcely, combined with that inversion, emphasizes just how little time elapsed, adds a dynamic quality to the narrative.
So here's where it gets really interesting, I think. These phrases, while maybe sounding unusual at first, are incredibly powerful tools for enriching English expression. They show a deeper understanding of the language's flexibility and its, well, poetic potential. Now, we've just explored how English can surprise us with phrases that seem incorrect but are actually highly effective. But what about those times when a phrase genuinely is incorrect? And how do we iron out those grammatical wrinkles? Let's clear up some common grammatical minefields in part 2. Navigating grammatical minefields, what to fix. These corrections are pretty vital for clarity and fluency.
Right, and when we connect this to the bigger picture, many of these common mistakes, they aren't really due to a lack of effort. Often they stem from fundamental structural differences between English and someone's native language, or maybe just a misunderstanding of common native speaker patterns.
That makes sense.
Correcting them often involves revisiting the basic roles of parts of speech and how they interact, sort of going back to basics sometimes.
Okay, let's dive into some pervasive errors then.
Yeah.
First, incorrect verb usage. You'll often hear phrases like, I'm study at university, or what does it mean?
Common ones.
The issue here often lies with auxiliary verbs, especially to be and dodos. You need to remember, after I'm, you typically use a noun, an adjective, or a verb ending in ing. So it should be, I study at university, or perhaps I am studying at university.
Right.
And for questions like the second example, what does it mean? You need that does or do. What does it mean?
This really highlights a common pitfall where learners apply sentence structures from their own language directly onto English.
Yeah.
English verb conjugation and the use of auxiliary verbs are quite specific, and getting them right is really foundational for conveying precise meaning.
Foundational, good word. And speaking of verbs, missing verbs are a big one too. English sentences almost always require a verb to be complete and grammatically sound. Phrases like, what your name, or he from Brazil, they're just incomplete.
They sound incomplete, yeah.
They need the verb to be, what is your name, and he is from Brazil. Simple as that, usually.
It's a cornerstone of English sentence construction. Every complete sentence has to have a subject and a predicate, and the verb is the core of that predicate. Omitting it just creates this jarring, incomplete thought.
Right. Then there's the issue of missing objects with transitive verbs. Remember, transitive verbs are those that transfer an action to a direct object. So you can't just say, please explain me, or I don't have. The verb needs something to act upon.
It needs an object, yeah.
You need to say, please explain this to me, or I don't have it, or I want a new car, or I enjoy learning English. Something has to receive the action.
This is often a challenge because, in some languages, certain verbs function differently. They might not need an explicit object in the same way.
Ah, okay.
So understanding which verbs in English require a direct object to complete their meaning is crucial for grammatical accuracy and, frankly, avoiding ambiguity.
Gotcha. Adjectives versus adverbs. This can be tricky. We often hear things like, I speak English good, or he is so loudly.
Classic examples.
The key is to remember what each word type describes. Adjectives describe nouns or pronouns of qualities. Adverbs describe verbs, adjectives, or other adverbs, how, when, where something happens.
Right.
So it's, I speak English well because well describes how you speak, the verb speak. And he is so loud because loud describes the pronoun he.
This distinction is just paramount for descriptive precision. Using the correct modifier ensures you're clearly communicating how an action is performed or what quality a noun possesses. It significantly impacts clarity.
Definitely. Prepositions. Oh boy, prepositions, another common pitfall.
Always tricky.
They're notoriously idiomatic in English, aren't they? Meaning you often just have to learn the specific ones used with certain verbs or places.
Yeah.
So, I live in England, or I am waiting. You are incorrect. It should be, I live in England and I am waiting for you.
Prepositions are tiny words with huge impact. They convey spatial, temporal, relational meanings. And their specific usage is often non-obvious to non-native speakers. Direct translation is a frequent source of error here. Mastering them really unlocks much more natural phrasing.
Absolutely. Double negatives are also something to fix. A phrase like, I don't have nothing to do, actually means you do have something to do. In English, two negatives often cancel each other out, creating a positive meaning, which can lead to confusion.
Right.
The correct forms are either, I don't have anything to do, or I have nothing to do. Pick one negative.
One negative, exactly. Keep it simple.
Sometimes, though, phrasing is just unnatural, even if it's grammatically close. English favors specific idiomatic constructions and often conciseness. For instance, I go to work by car. This is a bit clunky, doesn't it?
A little bit textbooky, maybe.
Yeah. I drive to work is much more natural and common. Similarly, I study at the university should typically be I study at university, unless you're referring to a specific university that's already been established in the conversation.
This is less about strict grammatical rules and more about the rhythm and natural flow of idiomatic English. Native speakers just gravitate toward certain expressions that sound more efficient or conventional. It's about aligning with those common usage patterns.
Aligning, right. And pay attention to adjectival phrases. When you're using a numerical description before a noun, like a 12-year-old child or a 3-year course, the plural as is not used in the descriptive part. You wouldn't say a 12-year-old child or a 3 years course.
Right.
It becomes a 12-year-old child and a 3-year course because the whole phrase acts as a single adjective.
Exactly. It's a very common oversight. When a numerical phrase modifies a noun like that, it functions as a compound adjective, and adjectives in English don't take a plural as. It's a subtle but important rule for achieving that native-like accuracy.
Subtle but important, yeah. Okay, when combining statements and questions, watch your word order. A common mistake is keeping the question structure within a larger statement, like, I don't know what is it, or tell me what is the matter.
Indirect questions.
Right. In these indirect questions, the embedded question reverts to a statement structure. So it should be, I don't know what it is, and tell me what the matter is, subject before the verb.
This rule is fundamental for fluency in complex sentences. It's about recognizing that once a question is embedded within a statement, it loses its direct question form and adopts a standard subject-verb order, essential for clear and sophisticated communication.
Definitely. And finally, reflexive pronouns. Phrases like, I looked at me in the mirror, are incorrect.
Sounds a bit strange.
It does. When the subject and object of the verb are the same, the action reflects back on the person doing it, you need a reflexive pronoun like myself. So I looked at myself in the mirror.
This just ensures clarity about who is performing and receiving the action. It's a specific way for English to specify that the subject is acting upon itself, making the sentence unambiguous.
Okay. So we've journeyed through some tricky correct phrases and then navigated the common grammatical traps. But language mastery isn't just about sounding correct, is it? It's also about understanding the social dynamics, the unspoken rules of interaction. That brings us to part 3. The social landmines, what not to say, and why. These are phrases and questions that, while grammatically sound, can unintentionally create a negative impression or even, well, kill your impression in social or professional settings, especially with strangers. It really hammers home that language is about connection and respect, like you said earlier.
This is exactly where the intricacies of cultural awareness and empathy really come into play. It's not just about what words mean literally, but about their connotations, their history, and how they might be received by the person you're speaking with. Understanding the mindset of your audience is absolutely critical here.
Right, the mindset. Let's start with some significant impression killers. One big one is stereotyping. Saying something like a girl. When someone is doing something weakly or maybe crying, that's deeply offensive.
Oh, definitely.
Instead of saying something demeaning like, why are you pushing it like a girl? Maybe just offer genuine help. May I help you?
It's problematic because it assigns negative connotations to an entire group based on an unfair generalization. It diminishes individuals and reinforces harmful stereotypes, which just undermines respectful communication entirely.
Totally. Next, demonstrating irresponsibility. Phrases like, I totally forgot, I'm getting late, or can you pay for me, can make you seem unreliable or lacking accountability.
Yeah, not a good look.
Instead of, I totally forgot, maybe try proactive solutions like making a list or setting reminders. Instead of perpetually being late and saying, I'm getting late, try to prioritize punctuality. And rather than always asking, can you pay for me, maybe cultivate more of a give and take relationship or use easy online payment methods yourself.
These phrases often reveal a pattern of behavior, not just an isolated incident. Taking accountability, being proactive, fostering reciprocity, these are far more effective in building trust and positive relationships. It's about demonstrating maturity and respect for others' time and resources.
Maturity and respect, yeah. Then there are intrusive or judgmental questions. Asking, are you working? Especially if you know someone recently lost their job.
Ooh, tricky.
Or what does your dad do? Is simply too personal for many situations. The same goes for how much did it cost or how much do you earn? These questions cross personal boundaries and can make people feel incredibly uncomfortable, even terrible.
Absolutely.
Instead, maybe opt for softer alternatives like, are you busy? Or if you admire an item, just, that looks expensive. Allow them to share details only if they wish.
These questions invade personal space and financial privacy. In many cultures, these topics are considered highly private, and asking directly can be perceived as nosy, judgmental, or even kind of predatory. It just reflects a lack of awareness of those unspoken social contracts.
Unspoken contracts, right. Rudeness or condescension is another major impression killer. Saying things like, that's so stupid, or can't you understand such a simple thing, you don't know, or directly, you are irresponsible. That can be incredibly off-putting.
Yeah, very abrasive.
Instead of stupid, maybe use softer words like silly, rather than can't you understand? Offer help or clarify your point. Provide solutions instead of just direct criticism. Instead of you don't know, try something like are you aware of? Much gentler.
Direct, harsh criticisms tend to just shut down communication and build resentment.
Yeah.
Using more empathetic and constructive language fosters an environment of learning and mutual respect, which is far more productive in any interaction.
Definitely. Insecurity can also come across negatively. Repeatedly saying, you don't love me anymore. That shows a lack of self-assurance and can put unnecessary pressure on a relationship.
It can be draining.
Instead, maybe take positive action, like arranging a special date night or having an open, honest conversation about your feelings.
Constructive steps.
And definitely avoid negative body comments like, oh my God, you have put on so much weight.
Please, yes, avoid this.
This is highly insensitive and, frankly, none of your business. You never know if someone is on medication, struggling with a health issue, going through something
I
difficult.
just don't know.
A simple, wow, you've changed a lot, allows the person to share if they wish, without making them feel terrible about their appearance.
Commenting on someone's body, unless it's a genuine specific compliment that you know will be received positively, is almost universally considered rude. It triggers self-consciousness and can cause immense emotional discomfort, as people might be dealing with unseen personal battles.
Exactly. Now let's talk about phrases never to say to a stranger. These are often impolite, unkind, or downright rude. Personal questions like, how old are you? How much do you weigh? How much money do you make? Or why don't you have kids?
All off limits.
Absolutely. They're incredibly sensitive topics. They pry into private lives and can cause immense discomfort. And cultural differences play a massive role in how acceptable these questions are or aren't.
You're absolutely right, and this raises an important question. How do we adapt our communication to the diverse mindsets and cultural sensitivities we encounter? These questions, though they might seem innocent to the asker, often touch on very private and potentially painful areas of a person's life. A stranger simply has no right to that information.
No, right at all. Commenting on appearance or health is also a big no-go with strangers. Saying, you look tired, might imply they look bad or unwell, making someone self-conscious. Our sources actually recount a story of a roommate who, after forgetting her makeup one day, was repeatedly told by students that she looked tired. She got so offended she actually left class to go home and put makeup on.
Wow.
It just shows how even an innocent-sounding comment can have a disproportionately negative impact.
That anecdote perfectly illustrates the unintended negative impact of such comments. They're often perceived as critical or judgmental rather than caring because they're unsolicited and focus on a perceived flaw.
Exactly. You've put on weight is simply rude, as we said. Commenting on someone's body is generally unacceptable unless it's a genuine, specific compliment. Our source mentions a personal experience of gaining weight due to medicine and how hurtful such comments can be, even from people you know.
It can be very painful.
Similarly, are you sick can be seen as intrusive and judgmental. And you're too skinny. That's body shaming, plain and simple, never acceptable, and could potentially affect those with serious conditions like anorexia.
It's crucial to remember we rarely know the full story behind someone's appearance or health. Unsolicited comments like these can exacerbate existing insecurities or struggles. It just demonstrates a profound lack of empathy.
Lack of empathy, yeah. Finally, disrespect or insensitivity. Saying I don't care is pretty much universally taken as a sign of disrespect and lack of interest, even if you don't intend it that way.
It sounds harsh.
It does. Instead, maybe explain why you're not participating, like, oh, I'm not hungry right now, but maybe next time. Something softer. You don't look like you're from here can immediately make someone feel like an outsider and is insensitive.
Yeah, that's
Othering. And saying you don't act like a typical nationality race, that's a stereotype and deeply offensive. Our source shares an experience in South Korea where this was said, apparently with no bad intent, but it caused significant offense.
These social rules really underscore the profound importance of respecting individual identity and cultural background. They're about upholding an unspoken social contract of courtesy and inclusivity, ensuring that our words build bridges rather than create divides.
Well said. What a deep dive we've had today. We've navigated the surprising twists of English, from those tricky, correct phrases that sound wrong, to common grammatical errors that, once fixed, instantly boost your clarity and fluency. And critically, we've explored the social landmines of impolite language, revealing how much more there is to communication than just words. The value for you, our listener, in improving your communication, building confidence, and fostering more meaningful connections. Oh, it's truly immense.
This deep dive really shows us that language isn't just a rigid set of rules to be memorized. It's a dynamic, living tapestry, woven with threads of grammar, culture, psychology, empathy.
Yeah.
The mastery of English, therefore, lies not just in knowing the words, but in understanding their profound impact on others.
So, maybe a final thought for reflection. As you go about your day, what else might you be saying that carries an unintended message? And how can a deeper awareness enrich your everyday interactions, making them more authentic and impactful?